So it's my turn to trauma dump. People I work with, yeah, I love them. I love them to death. There's this one girl, Julia. She's super nice, but I think she's kind of thinks me odd. I think she thinks that I'm weird, like immediately after class. But I won't actually go into my shift because it's technically her shift. But I drop my backpack and like run to lunch because you know, any human being has to run to lunch. And then she comes back like all smiley. Like, what's that about?
So there's this Katie chick, I think she's a lab assistant, but she just leaves her stuff all over the lab and I have to pick it up right before my shift.
Hey, Julia.
The first shift I ever had in this job, this guy came in and he was like, "Can I charge my drill here?" And I was like, "What? Your drill?" And I thought he was kidding. He pulled out a whole box and he opened it and like his whole drill was in there. I was like, what the heck? So yeah, I let him charge it and that was fine, but I was like, this is literally a studio for cameras and stuff. I don't understand. It's really confusing.
You know, this one time I had the highest score on Beat Saber, and then well, I spent a long time, you know, beating who I could only assume was Tim Cop. You know, it was only labeled Tim K, but we all know. And well, then one day I get a text from Brian, and he said that he beat my high score, and I've not gotten it back.
There was one guy, similar name as me, but that's cool. He was kind of annoying. I mean, he'd always come to the lab, just put on the VR headset, and then do like, what is it, like Saber? Something, I don't even know. It was just kind of weird.
There's this one dude, Brian, last semester. He would come in like an hour before his shift started while I was still working, and he would just get the VR out and he would just like walk around the room and like play his little Beat Saber game.
This guy I replaced, I don't know, his name was like Ryan or something. He used to run around with these goggles on his face before his lab shift and like hit people with his arms. I don't know what he was doing, but people say they miss him. I don't know why. I like feeling not pain.
We used to have an old lab assistant, Brian Sornock. I'm just glad he's not here.
So this one day, this guy named Brian pulled this terrible like prank on us where he told us that there were bobbleheads of Father Dave hidden all around campus, and me and Dan believed him. And we went on this like 45-minute search of the entire campus. We went up all the way to the Steel Cross, to Francis Hall, to all the academic buildings. We searched in elevators just to find a Father Dave bobblehead, all to realize in the end that the competition hadn't even started yet. So Brian sent us on this crazy hunt around campus, and then he told us in the end it was just a whole scheme just so we could get extra sunlight and vitamin D, because he said we're all vitamin deficient by being in the lab so much.
But people tend to think that I don't do my job. But I do make Instagram reels a lot. And yeah, I know they're cringy, but like, it's fun. And it's some sort of experience.
One of the lab assistants, I think her name is Katie, something like that. She's nice enough. Sometimes I'll always come in when her shift is like ending. She'll either have like Avatar, The Last Airbender on TV, or sometimes Bluey, and I like to laugh along just to not make her feel bad, because, you know, it's a kid's TV show.
Well, it wasn't one time, it was multiple times. So many times. People just kept coming into the lab, checking out SD cards. Until one day, a student came up to me and asked for help with Premiere Pro, and showed me on the screen this message that said their files were unlinked. And then I looked into it, and I asked where they were storing their files, and they took me through their file management system, which, first off, even if it were in one spot, it was an absolute mess. But no,
they kept their files in multiple places, in SD cards, like flash drives, on the computer, multiple places. The project was in a totally different place from where the footage was. It was in every which place, and they kept asking me, like, why does this keep happening? And I told them it's because your footage isn't all in the same place. But did they listen? No.
They just relinked the footage as I showed them and moved on with their life. And they came back the next day and asked the same question. This went on for months, and nobody another and another and another of an SD card. And it just kept on going until that class eventually ended. Well, not really, but the professor eventually just, we had a group project and the professor ordered like an external hard drive for the whole class, and if that hadn't happened, we would have died for the rest of the semester. It was really awful. Yeah, no, that was terrible.
But then one time I was on shift and Professor Harris came in and I thought I was in trouble because he was like starting to look at this, and then he pointed out that there was a whole banana peel on the floor under a chair, and I was like, what? And so I don't know, somebody just left their whole banana peel there, and he told me that I had to figure out who did it, and so I tried to figure out who did it, but nobody confessed, and I kind of think it was Harris the whole time.
Yeah, recently on a lot of my shifts, people have been coming in and asking some weird questions, like where's the space bar, and how do I get to YouTube, and other stuff like that. But I can't tell if they're being serious. So I mean, I don't want to be mean to them and you know, not answer it or be rude. So I've just been answering them.
I was studying for my professional avid certification, and I'm just sitting outside the lab, going through my Quizlet notes, and a bunch of the 243 kids were just in the lab working on their projects. It's like, man, maybe around like 11 p.m. at night. So we're all just like cranking it out, and then another student just comes around the hallway, like the Ben, with a plate in his hand, and there's just this burnt pretzel on it, and it's just smoking, spewing tons of smoke.
And he's like basically sitting right under the fire alarm, so I yell at him to like move and run out of the building, and I stand up and turn the corner, and the whole corner's just like full of so much smoke. So then, to make it worse, the fire alarm goes off, and the theater kids are down the hall. They didn't seem too pleased with it all, and there's some kids who refused to evacuate the building, and then like public security came down, and like we wanted security to know that like it was not the Commerce kids' fault, so we started blasting We Didn't Start the Fire, just on repeat, so that when security came down to question us, he knew it wasn't us and it wasn't our fault.
Oh, do I know who started the fire? Oh, of course I know. It was
The hallway of the lab smelled like burnt popcorn for weeks. Yeah.
It was a pretzel.
Well, it smelled like burnt popcorn. Or at least that's what we told Schaefer. It's one of the challenges of having the microwave right by your stuff. People burn things in it. Must be hard to burn something in the microwave, but people have that ability, I guess.
There's this one lab assistant, his name is Dan. I've known him forever, and like he's pretty cool. But like whenever he talks, I like have to go away, because if he talks, like he talks very loudly. And then Maria, like she's my boss kind of, but like she's cool, she's chill. But like she and Dan, when they're together in a room, they're like so loud.
People always complain about my music choices when I'm in the lab. Like, I'm just trying to set the mood. I don't know why people can't stand Taylor Swift. I love her, she's great. I think she sets the vibes really well, but no one else seems to like her.
Yeah, usually I come in like an hour before my shift, but I'm pretty tired, so usually fall asleep. The lab floor's really comfy.
Matt! 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 Your pay comp! Matt! And sometimes I'll do tons of work and I'll spend hours working on a project or something for a professor, and then Dan comes in at the last minute, finishes it up, and then he gets all the credit for it. And the professor sometimes even in class will just talk about how he did all the work and how everything was just amazing because it was Dan who did it. In reality, I did it.
Yeah, I know that Maria's the boss and things, and she does do a lot more than I do. I will give her that. Like, there's logistical things that she does, but it's like, I'll do something to like fix a thing. And like, cause she's lab lead, she's like the one who gets to like tell the professors about it. And so I just like, I don't get any recognition for that. Like, what's up with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no brain cells. Dan stole the other half of mine yesterday.
I also have this like crazy boss who like can't hold a like attention span at all. Yeah, like it's kind of weird. She'll just say like all these random things. I don't know. It's like she always seems to have something. She like seems like half dead all the time at work. I don't know. This question. I don't know. It's very interesting. In fact, that's most of the people in the lab. People don't eat enough food. I don't eat enough food. It's a weird culture. It's like people ask if you've eaten food, and then we all say no. Or we say that we've planned on getting food, and then we don't get food. Sometimes we do get food, but we usually don't, and it's not good.
Dan. You think we can't see you? We can.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not talking well.
So I work a lot of closing shifts, and one of the things we're supposed to do on closing is check behind the studio set to make sure no one's sleeping back there, which is kind of weird to me. Like, I've never seen anybody sleep back there.
Throughout my shift, I always have to tell Dan to go to class. Every day, 12:52. I have to remind him why he's not in class.
This is my first semester as a lab assistant. I like it a lot. My boss, oh, he's just like so nice. I love him so much.
Matt thinks I'm his boss. Which I mean, I guess I'm kind of okay with that, cause like, yeah, I mean, next semester, I mean, I will be his boss. So like, you know, when you look back at these recordings, you know, fall 2024, I will be. So like, it's not wrong, but it's not right. You know, but it's a struggle sometimes, you know.
Oh, my real boss? Yeah, she's pretty mean. She almost fired me before I even had my first shift.
Matt! Wake up!
She gone?
No, I actually don't hate Matt. He's actually really good. He's a new guy, so I kind of have to be tough on him now, so that like when I'm gone, I'm doing him a favor, and I'm doing Dan a favor. So next year, there won't be any problems, because he'll already know the things. And then he can pass on all the knowledge and lessons he's learning now onto all the lab assistants next year. So I'm actually doing him a favor with all my tough love, even if he thinks I just hate him.
Every time I have to return equipment, Maria just stares into my soul for at least 20 seconds before I can say anything.
Yeah, so being a lab lead is
Dan!
really
Dan!
good.
Dan! Oh, hey Maria.
Matt? Hello. Do you need something? Okay.
It was great when I was working in the lab one day. I had Dan, Matt, Judah, who else was there? Was Omar there? I made them all watch Legally Blonde. It was great. It was my proudest moment.
Since I'm around all the time, you know, people ask me questions. It's like, especially Matt. Like, I mean, you know, he's a lab assistant now, which is great. I'm grateful. Like, it'll be good for when I'm lab lead, and I won't have to train as many people. You know, that's good. But like, he's always asking questions. Like, you know.
Dan, how do I add an effect on Pro Tools?
Matt, give me a minute. I'll be there in a minute. I swear. Probably. Sometimes I think the most uttered word out of my mouth is Matt. It's crazy. This whole thing. It's like, I'm starting to think that he might enjoy spending time with me. Like, he asked me to lunch the other day. It was just kind of random. So it's like, I'm okay with it. It's like, but how is that going to affect the future boss and like subordinate relationship, you know? Like, that we don't have, but like, we will have. So it's like, then what? What will people think? Is this what Maria's life is like?
Well, it's like working with your friends, but on a different level, because like I'm their boss, but also their friend. So it like creates this weird sort of relationship, but it's also kind of normal. I mean, I've only had to like turn them in once or twice, and I almost had to fire one of them before his first day. But it's pretty normal, pretty casual. There's like not much of a difference. Like
Me, I'm assistant lab lead. Well, basically.
Oh, so Dan? Yeah, he's basically just like assistant to the lab lead. Like, he's my right hand, he's great, he helps me a lot. Like, I couldn't function without him, but yeah, he's definitely the assistant to the lab lead.
You know?
That must be really hard for you. I do what I want, okay?